Do you remember when Kmart used to sell all sorts of tech? I used to love going through the entertainment sections at Kmart as a kid. I just liked all of this technology on show. I even bought my first TV from Kmart. It was this big fat widescreen CRT, something I wish I'd held onto in hindsight. But around 2010, Kmart decided to wind down their technology offerings, and in 2018, cut it off entirely to focus on more profitable lines. I get it, they're a business, they need to make money, but it still kind of sucked, and I think I and a lot of other people just didn't really notice at the time because it happened so gradually. It's worth mentioning here that I'm specifically referring to Kmart Australia and not the Kmart you'll find in the US. Kmart Australia is completely separate and owned by Wesfarmers, but that's not important to this video. What is important is that Kmart recently looks like are going to get back into the tech and entertainment space, bringing out more PC, gaming and AV related gear, bringing back brands like Logitech. And to the topic of today's video, the new Anko portable monitor. Okay, I'll admit that's not the most exciting bit of tech in the world, but it was something that I'd been looking at buying anyway, and I just had to know if it was actually any good. At the time of recording, it retailed for $119, which is pretty reasonable when you compare it to the offerings from other manufacturers like Blancpain, AOC and Philips, and a downright bargain when compared to the likes of Asus, Lenovo or MSI. Though I did notice a nice one from MSI on sale for a similar price recently. So today, I want to explore, is this Anko monitor worth buying, or is it just going to be more Kmart e-waste destined for landfill? Let's find out. Just a reminder that this is not sponsored, all opinions are my own and I paid for this with my own money. Now, obviously I don't really expect it to match the quality of those higher end brands, but I've been using it as a casual extra monitor to keep things like music, YouTube, research pages open, and for that it's been perfectly capable. It's not the brightest screen in the world, but perfectly usable indoors, and the colors appear to be accurate enough out of the box to at least not drive me mental. I wouldn't trust it for color crucial work, but that's not really what it's meant for. It's marketed as a 1080p HD multi-purpose monitor for portability and diverse compatibility, which so far has proven pretty accurate. Supposedly it's compatible with computers, laptops, phones and game consoles. Basically seems like anything that outputs a DisplayPort or HDMI signal. On the left hand side of the screen are two USB-C ports and a mini HDMI port. On the right hand side are 4 subtle but clicky buttons for power, brightness, volume and OSD access, plus a headphone port, and on the back there's a speaker grill, two 75mm M4 VESA mount holes and a somewhat flimsy feeling but functional fold-out kickstand, and given that it only weighs in at around 670 grams, it's more than sufficient if you're gentle. The monitor itself is a 15.6-inch 1920 by 1080 IPS display with a 60Hz refresh rate, and to be honest, it actually looks fairly decent. Obviously, it's not Retina display quality, but decent enough for casual use with decent viewing angles. Though I have no idea what the actual specs are because Kmart doesn't list them. The OSD is accessed using the buttons on the right hand side, and here you can find more controls for the basics you'd expect like contrast, color and power. Interestingly, there's also a HDR mode, which is weird, as well as low blue light and FreeSync. So a few extra features there that I didn't really expect to see on such a budget monitor. I was curious about its color accuracy though, so I pulled out my Data Color SpiderX color calibrator and let it run through its process. I didn't mess with the color settings because I wanted to see how it performed out of the box, but I suspect you could probably improve these values a little bit. Honestly, I don't think it's worth it. If you need color accuracy, this isn't the right monitor for you. As you can see in this extremely unfair comparison, it performs pretty much as you'd expect in the sRGB gamut, with my test showing 64% coverage compared to both other displays hitting their expected percent. But to be fair, they're both designed to actually be color accurate, have dedicated color modes, and are much more expensive. So these results are really just for reference. Or if you're curious like me. Really, this monitor is just designed to be a convenient extra display that you can use on the go or as needed, and for that it works pretty well. I tested it out in a couple of different scenarios and for the most part it was fine. It connected to my Mac and iPhone without issue, And if you have a fancy enough Android phone like the Samsung S series, you can even use DeX to get a desktop style experience with no extra cables needed. Something to note here though is with the display connected only to the phone, it's limited to 30% brightness. At least it was in my case anyway. If you connect it to power via a USB outlet or battery bank, you get both full brightness and power pass through up to 60 watts. Everything else got full brightness from the get-go, which you will need if you need to use this monitor outside. When connected to just the phone on an albeit bright but overcast day, the 30% backlight limitation made the screen basically unusable. It'd be fine inside or maybe undercover, but you definitely want a battery bank or something for extra power. Even then, at 100% brightness, it was still a bit of a struggle, usable, but not ideal. I also tested to see how this monitor functions when connected to a HDMI source, opting to try it out with my PS4, and it actually was half decent. With the HDR set to auto, the PS4 went through its calibration procedure and actually came out looking reasonable, and the game was perfectly playable. However, that's more than can be said for the speakers. They're serviceable, in the same way laptop speakers from the early 2000s were. Honestly, they sound terrible, but there is a headphone jack, so you could hook up some headphones or small speakers pretty easily if you had to. It's nice that they're there though, and at this price point I actually didn't expect it, but they really are a last resort. So who is this monitor for, and should you think about buying one? I'd say if you occasionally find yourself in need of an extra monitor for referencing information or for quick access to controls, if you're traveling and you want to have an extra monitor to sit next to your laptop for productivity, or to plug your desktop mode capable phone into, then yeah, it's a pretty decent option as far as cheap monitors go. It's not great for anything requiring accuracy or details, but if portability is your main concern, it's really slim and really light. If you are able to use something like Samsung DeX, it's a much lighter option than a full-blown laptop, not to mention cheaper if something gets broken or lost along the way. Just make sure you have a battery bank to add extra power and really only intend to use it inside. I can also see it being useful for kids watching a movie while camping, or for mobile gaming with a bigger screen. In saying that, there is one big caveat that I want to mention. It's a good buy if you don't want to get something from Amazon. You can undoubtedly get something cheaper and potentially better on there. You just don't get that same easily accessible 12-month warranty that comes with the Kmart one. I avoid it when I can, but I do buy from Amazon sometimes, and I'm still pretty pleased with this purchase. It does everything you'd expect of a model like this, plus a few extra things, and so far it's been surprisingly handy to have for just general use and some light gaming. I think if you keep your expectations in check, then you won't be disappointed. Let me know if you picked up one and what you think of it. But with that, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.